Okay, so let's get started. First, I would like to thank you, Strangeloop, for inviting me to speak at this conference in this amazing city of St. Louis. Have you guys been at the museum yesterday? That's the coolest museum I've ever been at. Also, cool thing is the arch. You know, you can go on the top and you can see St. Louis from there. This is amazing. So my name is Jakub, and I work for Microsoft, but I work for the new Microsoft, and this is the new unofficial logo of the Microsoft, the ninja cat on the unicorn. And I work on the Microsoft Azure Management Portal, one of the largest single-page applications in the world. It's written in TypeScript, and it's actually, I'm not sure how many developers, but I think number around 500 is pretty much what we have now. And this app works even in Tesla. This is my friend's Tesla car, and we run the portal in a browser in Tesla. I think that's pretty cool. You know, now web is going like everywhere. I have a blog, jj09.net. I encourage you guys to check it out and subscribe. I'm also on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Jakub Jedryszek. You can also find it on my blog. I'm a developer, but I also like cycling. I like movement. So here I am in Mount Evans. This is the highest paved road in North America, 14,000 feet elevation, and the oxygen level at the top is 50% of what we have here. So that was a pretty cool experience. Here's myself doing the Seattle to Portland bike race. This is the biggest bike race in America. Every year, 10,000 cyclists are going from Seattle to Portland, doing 200 miles. You can do it in 1 day or 2 days. So if you guys ever go to Seattle, you should check out the Seattle to Portland. It's very cool. So let's talk about JavaScript now. You know, there's many frameworks coming out. Almost probably right now somebody's releasing on GitHub the next one. But you know, the thing is, like almost every year we have some more popular and less popular. Like last year it was Angular. This year React seems to be the biggest. But what about next year? So we don't know, right? Because we'll have to wait till next year. But we can look at the alpha version of the currently developed frameworks. So I was pretty excited when I first seen the Angular 2. And you know, the idea of Angular 2 is to take advantage of web components. This is what the new web should be, that you can create the reusable components of the view and JavaScript behind it. And Angular is doing that. I really liked it. And then I was even more happy when Rob Eisenberg, the creator of Durandal framework, was a pretty popular framework around 3 years ago. He joined the Angular team, and they want to take the best of Durandal, the best of Angular, and create the new next generation framework. So that was pretty cool. But after a few months, Rob and Angular team didn't agree about the vision, and so he quit Angular team and he started doing his own framework called Aurelia. And that was pretty sad, because I was like, yeah, so now, you know, the Angular guys will be doing the main stuff. He'll do some probably less important framework. Angular will be a big thing, but it won't be that good. And I thought that until I've seen on his blog. So if you Bing with Google, Rob Eisenberg, Angular versus Aurelia. And here you can see the differences between vision of these two frameworks. And the left-hand side is the Angular, and the right-hand side is Aurelia. And when I have first seen that, I was like, that cannot be true. Like, you cannot do that. And then I was thinking, okay, so your view is probably like 300 lines of code. So then I scroll down, and I see the same here. It's like so simple. So I not really often check the alpha version of frameworks, but this time I was like, I need to at least check if this can be true with this. If I don't have like another like file who's doing all the stuff the Angular guys are doing here. So I went to Aurelia.io website. Pretty nice, clean website. And here, if you click Get Started, here's a small tutorial how you can get started. But the most important thing is here. It's the navigation skeleton project. If I go here, I'll go to GitHub. And this is like a starting point for your, it's like file new project for Aurelia. And you can just clone this. So I'll do this. I'll open my console. Make it bigger. There's strange loop. And I'll just git clone this. Okay, internet is so fast. So now I have this skeleton navigation project. I'll cd here, and I'll run npm install, because this project uses a lot of npm packages in order to make your development experience better. And actually, let me switch back to slides for a second. So Aurelia is written with ECMAScript 7, which is the next version of JavaScript. Currently, ECMAScript 7 was renamed to ECMAScript 2016 because they want to emphasize that now we want to do very often new releases, almost like every year. So that's cool. ECMAScript 7 is just an alias of that. And in order to run Aurelia in current browsers, they're transpiling the ECMAScript 7 to ECMAScript 5. So now we don't have this problem anymore that we need to wait until the browser will implement the standard. We can start using it today. And by default, Aurelia is using Bubble transpiler, but you can also use Tracer or TypeScript even transpiler in there. And they're using NPM to manage the modules, and JSPM. JSPM is JavaScript Package Manager. It's like Bower. You guys knew Bower? How many people knew Bower? Okay, like 50%. So you use Bower to manage your front-end packages, and JSPM is the same thing, but it's like for ECMAScript 6. It's using System.js, which is built on top of the native ECMAScript 6 module loader, so you can use ECMAScript 6 modules using System.js, and you don't have to use require.js anymore. And by default, they use Gulp for automation, for transpilation. They use browser sync plugin to auto-refresh your website you're working on and run tests, so on and so forth. So let me open this project. So you see this npm install will take a while. So I'll just open the new window here. And I will go to strange loop, to skeleton project. And I'll open my editor. Here I'm using the Visual Studio Code. It's new lightweight IDE created by Microsoft. It's like Sublime or Atom. I like it. It have trade-offs. But what is cool here, you can run Gulp tasks right from there. I don't need my console anymore. But first, so this is what you get by default from Aurelia. There's like a lot of stuff, right? And you can see at the package JSON, there's also a lot of packages. But most of them, like for example, this is Gulp instrumentation, so you can ignore it. Here's the Karma, because they already are showing you how you can write the tests to your project, so you don't have to figuring out this later on. They already set it up for you, so you can start using it. But for now, I'll just ignore all of this. And I'll look at the index.html file, because this is where the magic is starting. So here's nothing interesting. I'm just importing some style sheets. And here, I have Aurelia app equals main. And that means that my app will be located in main.js file. I can, of course, change it to my app, but for now, I'll just leave the default. And this is a splash screen. This is what will be displayed when my app is loading. And here I'm importing System.js, the ECMAScript 6 module loader, and config.js. And in config.js, I have a description of my app. So here I am saying I'm using a Bubble transpiler. Here I'm defining my path, where my JavaScript files will live. And here I'm importing the Aurelia bootstrapper, which will start my app. So I have everything in source directory. And here's already the demo app, but I'll just remove it from now, and I'll show you guys how you can create it from scratch. So I'll add new directory called source. And I'll add my main.js file. And here I need to just implement one function called configure. And this function has one parameter. And I'll call it Aurelia. Aurelia. I hope the font is good enough. And here in my configure function, I will say Aurelia use standard configuration. And I will say Aurelia start. And start will return me a promise And in my promise, I'm using ECMAScript 6 arrow function here. In my promise, I will say set root. And here I can provide my default web component that will be loaded with my app. And I can specify the name here, like, for example, app. But if I don't do that, by default, Aurelia will assume that my starting component will be app. So I'll just leave the defaults. I also have to export my function, so it will be visible for entire app. And I'll add my first component. I'll add app.html file. And here I create a template. I'll say, hello, Aurelia. And I'll create a view model for my view called app.js. And here I'll create the ECMAScript class. So I'll say export class app. And for now, I'll just leave it empty because I want to just display this static view. So let's see if my app is installed. OK, looks like it is. So I have my NPM modules installed. I also need to install my JSPM modules. So I say JSPM install yes. And hopefully, if everything will go fine. The problem with Aurelia now is that it's at very early stage of alpha. So with every next release, there is a risk something will not work. So it pretty much happened. But once we get to at least beta, I believe this will not be a problem. So for now, everything is working here. So now I will run gulp watch, which will compile for me, transpile for me my JavaScript files to ECMAScript 6, and it will launch the server with browser sync. And I can even grab this link from here, and I will paste it to my browser. And my app is loaded. I have my default view, hello Aurelia, loaded. So I have my app started, but nothing interesting is going on so far. Let me actually stop gulp here because I don't want this to be in console. I would like to run it here in VS Code. So if I say Control-Shift-P and I say run task, click enter, and now VS Code is looking for my potentially gulp file or grunt file, and it's looking for a task. And here you can see I have a list of all my tasks. So I want to run watch task. I say enter, and it's opened a sort of fake console in here for me, and it will run my app. So I'll just leave it here. And I'll add something to my view. So instead of static text, I'll add 2 input tags. And in this input tags, I would like to enter my first name, my last name, and then concatenate the string dynamically and just display it. So let's say I will add label here, and I will call it first name. I will also add label here. I'll call it last name. And another label called full name. And, and just TT tag. I'll display my full name here. But so, first I need to create my variables on my view model in order to be able to bind. So I go to my view model, and I'll create a first name. I'll set it to empty string by default. This is how we can create the properties in ECMAScript 6 class. You don't have to do crazy JavaScript classes anymore. And I will create the last name as well, also empty string. And I will create a getter function called full name. And this function will just concatenate my first name and last name. So I'll say return. And here I will use the ES6 template strings. So last name. So this is equivalent if I say this first name plus quote plus this last name. Just this syntax is better. I think it's more clean. So I have my view model created, and now I need to bind it in the view, right? So in Angular, I need to put it in the scope, do some ng thing. But here, on the input tag, like in the native input tag, you just say value equals, and you add a string you want to set your input tag to, right? So in Aurelia, you also use value, but you just say .bind, and here you put the name of your variable. And I'll do the same for my last name. Say value.bind equals last name. And I want to display it Aurelia used $ curly brace for the templates. So I'll say full name. And this will display my full name, which is defined on my view model. And you can see I am not doing any explicit bindings. Everything is happening behind the scenes. So let's see if this works. You can see my browser is automatically refreshed by browser sync. So say Jakub Jedryszek. Probably you can see, I hope you can see, it's automatically refreshed in here. Okay, so this is cool. I can do first name, last name binding, but this is boring. Let me create something more. So I would like to add a button, create, and I would like to get the values from my fields and add the person to some list and display this list dynamically. So, but first, it will be such a shame if I'm using such a beautiful framework, but my view looks so crappy. So I will add the Twitter Bootstrap, which I have also pre-installed here. It's GitHub, Twitter Bootstrap, I think. CSS, yep. I'll just copy this path and add this to my index. Say link, tab, Control V. And I'll just remove the beginning of my path because I just need relative path. Okay, so I have Twitter Bootstrap. I'll make it look a little bit better now. So let's say I'll put a div container here. VS Code supports the Zen coding when we can say div dot class name. This is a pretty cool thing, I think. The same I can say form dot form inline. So I want to have my fields inline. I don't need an action in here for now. I'll just grab this and put in here because full name won't be in my form anymore. Okay, so I have this, I have that. And I also say that my input tags have class form control. I really like Twitter Bootstrap because I don't have to write CSS anymore, and this is really advantage. So let's see how this looks now. Oh, it's so much better. Do I? Ooh, where? Oh yeah, that's why it wasn't in line, right? Yeah, now it's in line. Cool. Thank you, guys. Okay, so let me add the button. So say button.btn create. I have two classes. I'll call it create. And now I would like to bind this to action. I'll add on my view model. I'll call this action create. And in create, I would like to add my person to some lists. I'll say this people.push. And for simplicity, I'll just grab the full name. I can also, add entire object and then manage the first name, last name. But for simplicity, I just add the full name. And I also need to init my people array to be empty. And I need to bind this to my form. So also pretty simple. I say click.trigger equals create. This is cool because I'm writing code like I speak English. I said click, trigger, create. So this is already done. So let's see. Oh, I need to also display it somehow. Okay. So I'll create another container here. Say title people. And here, I'll create a list. And again, as I speak English, I'll say Lee repeat dot for equals person of people. This is a ECMAScript for off loop, which iterates over the values instead of keys, as in for in loop. And here I will say just person. And this should display my array. So let's see how this is refreshed, just to make sure. Say Jakub Jet, I'll say create, and it pops up on my list. I can also add Rob Eisenberg, say create. So I have adding to my list. So now let's add also deleting from my list. So here I'll need a button. Also I'll add class, btn delete to make it red. And I'll also bind it to action saying click trigger equals delete. And I need to say what I want to delete. So I need to, I can pass my person object, or I can just pass the index. And you have it for free in Aurelia by saying $index. It will give you the index of element you're iterating over. And also here I need to say $parent, because here I am in the loop, I am in scope of the person, but I want to be in scope of my view model, so I need to go to my parent scope. And I need to add my delete function here. So I say delete index, and then this people splice. I'm still waiting until JavaScript will introduce the delete add or something more intuitive for removing from array. And say index 1. I'll click save. And I'll auto refresh. So let's see now Jakub Jet create. And if I click delete, it disappears. I can add multiple elements. I can delete them. OK, so I have creating, deleting. To have a full CRUD, let me also add the editing. So I would like to have an edit button, and if I click edit, I would like my static text to become the input tag, where I can edit my name, and then I would like to change my edit button into save button to click save after I'm done editing. So I'll go back to my view, and here, how can I do that? So for example, one thing I can do, I can create a new property called editing, and I'll set it to undefined by the default. And if I say edit element of index, I'll just say this editing is equal index. And then on my view, I can figure out which, yeah, everything is fine, I think. So here I can figure out which element is being edited, and I'll add span tag on which I'll say show.bind, bind equals. So that means that this span tag will be show only if the condition inside here will be satisfied. And here I will say index equals parent dot editing. Okay, so this is what I will be displaying when the element is being edited. And I would like to have here the input tag, and in input tag I'll bind this to parent, and I'll create a temporary value. Let's say I'll call it new value. And after I click edit, I would like to set my current edit to this temporary new value. So let me do it now. So I set this editing, and this new value equals this people of index. Okay, so I have this. Let me go back here. So I also need to add a button, which will be almost like delete, but with the difference that it will be not delete, it will be just save. So I say save, and here I say save, and here I also say save. So this is what I will have when I am editing, and also I want to have similar thing for not editing. So I'll just copy this span and change this to if index is different than editing. So that means this element is not being edited. Then just display me static text. So I'll save that and go back to my browser. Say Jakub Jet create. Oops, I don't have my edit. Let's see. I did it wrong. Oh, I didn't add the edit button, sorry. So here I need to add the edit button as well. Actually, the delete button should be out of this because I won't always see it. So my edit button will be edit, and it will be edit. Oh, come on, edit. Okay, save. Let's see now. Say Jakub Jet create. Okay, I have edit button. Click edit. I can edit it, but I cannot save yet because I didn't create a save function. So let me do it really quick. I'll add a save of index, and here I'll say this people of index equals this new value. So I get my temporary value in here, and I also say this editing equals undefined because I'm not editing anything anymore. Let's see that. Jet create and edit. Spell my full name, click save. It says that I can add another one and also edit it. I say Rob Eisenberg, click save. I can still do editing. So here I created the CRUD app writing 28 lines of JavaScript. And if you can see here, there's no framework specific code at all. This is just JavaScript in here, right? So everything is happened by convention, and it's taken care of by framework. Of course, you can customize all of this, but I think this is pretty cool that, by default, you don't have to write much JavaScript at the beginning. In my view, of course, I have a little bit framework template specific things, but this is a must, right? We cannot get rid of that for now. So I have a very single page application now. I have some dynamic things, but when you create a new SPA app, you would like to have multiple views, right? So you like to have a router, and you can click and you can reload your views. So let's see how to do this in Aurelia. So I'll go back to my app, and I will move all this to new component. I will call this component per people, people.html. I'll just paste it here. And the same with my JavaScript. I'll just copy this, create a new file, people.js, paste it here. I'll just need to change my class name to people. And in my app HTML, I'll remove all of this. I'll create a new tag, router view. So here will be my view will be displayed, and here I'll also remove all the methods, and I'll just create the one method called configure router. Configure router, and this method has two parameters, config and router, and these two will be injected by Aurelia dependency injection. So I will save router on my object. In config, I say config.map, and here I will specify the array of my routes. So my first route will be just JavaScript object. I'll say route, and I'll say empty string, because that will be my default route. And I'll just need to specify the module ID. I'll call it people. Okay, so this should be enough to, and you see here I have what I had before, but in different files, right? So now I would like to add more views, and I would like to also add the menu, to be able to change it. So in order to add the menu, I need to say here nav true, because then this will be appearing in my routes. And also will add the title, which I will reuse for displaying the name of my subpage. I'll call it people. And in the view, I'll just create a navbar inverse. This is some cool class, I think. And here I'll say div container fluid. And here I'll create a list. Yeah, thank you. And here I'll just iterate over, oops, sorry. I'll repeat.for equals route of router.navigation. And here I'll just display this, so I'll need to create an anchor tag. And again, in order to bind my link to anchor tag, I'll just say href.bind, and here I will say route.href. And here I'll display the name of my route, so I'll say route title. And I click save. Let's see what we have, and you see, not very pretty, but it's here. I have my first route. So let me add another subview. So I'll add another component. I will call it about.html. Here I'll just create a template. I'll say this is about page. And I'll also create a view model for it. About.js. here I'll say export class about. I'll click save, and I also need to add this to my routes. So I'll go back to my app. I'll just copy this, paste it here, and just change the route to be about, this to be about, and title to be also about. And in routes, what I can do here, like I want to specify the multiple routes for one module. So I can say, I have array of different routes here. So first one is empty. This one will be called people. And then if I go to empty route, it will display me module people. If I go to people route, it will also display me people route. So let's save that. Let's go back here. And you can see I'm in about page, and here I am in the people page. Okay, so I have a single page app. I can reload my views, but what you really want is call your backend, right, to get some data and display it, because that's what we are usually doing, right? So in order to do that, I need to install Aurelia HTTP client. So I'll go back to my console, and I will say jspm install Aurelia HTTP client. And I will create a new component that will grab a list of my repositories from GitHub API, because I don't have to create API then. So I'll create a new component called github.html. Here, create a template. And in my template, I'll say h1 title my repos. And here I'll create a list. In the list, I'll repeat .for equals repo of repos. So the only thing now I have to do, I have to put all my repositories on this repos property on my view model. Sorry. Oh yeah. Thank you. Template. Okay. And yeah. All right. That should be fine. And here I'll add anchor tag, and again I will bind to my href, and in href I think it was repo.html URL. Hope I'm not wrong. And here repo.name, so I'll display the name. Link actually doesn't matter. So now let me create a view model for that. I'll say github.js. Here export class github. And here I need to import a few modules, and I'll do it using ECMAScript module loading. I don't need require.js anymore, which is cool. So I say import inject. This is the module I will be using to inject my router into my class from Aurelia framework. And also I'll import HTTP client from Aurelia HTTP client. So this package I just installed. Actually, let's see. Yeah, it's installed. And here on class, I'll say add inject HTTP client. And this will inject this as the first parameter of my constructor. So here I'll create the constructor, ECMAScript 6 constructor. And one parameter, I'll call it HTTP, because the name doesn't have to match this name here. And I'll say this HTTP equals HTTP. And actually, I could call my API in here, my constructor, but the better thing to do is to create activate method, which is a pretty cool workaround to delay the template rendering before I call my API. So I won't render my DOM twice, first time when it's empty and the second time when my data will come. So in activate, we'll do that. So I'll say here this http.get, and if I remember correct, it was https api github.com/users. This is my GitHub login and repos. And here it will return me the promise. And my promise, I'll get the response. And so I want to save my response on this repos property, which I'm using in my view. But actually, this response will be a JSON, and I want to convert my JSON to JavaScript object. So I'll just say JSON.parse. This is in ECMAScript 5, so this is nothing new. And this should grab my repos. So let's see. Oh, I also have to add my GitHub route here. So again, I'll just copy this route. I say GitHub, GitHub, and GitHub. I'll save this. And here you can see I have new route GitHub. I'll click GitHub, and nothing is happening. That's not good. Sorry? Okay, GitHub view model. Oh yeah, response. Okay, let's see now. Okay, I click GitHub. Ooh, 403. That's no good. Okay, so guys, who was using GitHub API? You just destroyed my demo. You know some free API? Let's say free API. Okay, that's no good. Twitter. Let's see, Twitter statuses. Can I get Twitter statuses? Let's see my statuses. Ah, damn. You guys know some API? Amazon API, you say? Free API sample. If I do what? I think so, but I think I am already logged in. Yeah, because, yeah, I think I had this issue before when I was preparing this talk. Course? Sorry? No, I think this is issue with GitHub that you know, people from this API do too many requests. Okay, so let me just skip it, and you guys just believe me that this will do the call. And damn, where's some? Okay, sample JSON data. Let's see here. I have JSON example. Okay, here I have something. How I can? Oh, damn. Okay, let's move JSON data URL. Okay, that should be it. JSON test. Okay, so here's something. Date time. Okay, echo JSON. Okay, let's do this. So I'll do this, and yeah, I'll convert my response. I have no idea what this will return, 1 and key. So let's see. I'll just display it. I say repo dot 1. Yeah, let's see. Go back to Aurelia, refresh. GitHub. Empty. Okay. Sorry. In the view model. Oh, okay. But you know, this is a response is what is coming back from my API. So actually, you know, here what I can do. Let's do F12 and let's analyze the network traffic. Because why not? So let's do this. Clear GitHub. And here I am getting this JSON. Repo of repos? Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. So I just need to do this, you say? Repos 1. Or maybe let's just do this. Let's say console.log this repos. This should do the job, right? Shouldn't? Get this here. Boom. Let's see console. GitHub. Yay, there's object 1 to key value. Yeah, whatever. Sorry for that. I didn't predict that they will log the GitHub API. So you know, this is pretty much all I have. You know, so I have this small app, not many files. What I specifically like about that, I am writing just JavaScript in here. I'm not writing a lot of framework-specific code. And if you guys want to oops, sorry. I want to start from this guy. If you guys want to check out Aurelia, go to aurelia.io. And there is a tutorial. There is very nice documentation. There is also the Prolocite class building applications with Aurelia by Scott Allen. And if you are not familiar with ECMAScript 6 yet, there's also great course JavaScript fundamentals for ES6. And also you can check on bubblejs.io. There's a very cool overview of the feature and like 2 sentences explanation what is that for. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please go ahead. Yeah?
So I'm really liking everything I see with Aurelia. And I would love to see it go further. But I'm kind of worried about competition. So right now with Angular 2, we've got such a huge backing from the success they've had with Angular 1. And then you've also got, on the flip side of that, Aurelia's got just a small number of contributors. And I'm kind of worried that it might get overlooked simply because of the nature of the past history and success of Angular. Like, what are you seeing in terms of like the community starting to ramp up behind Aurelia?
I mean, you know, if you go to GitHub and you check Aurelia there is a lot of contributors already. Actually, Aurelia, where is the framework? So here you can see there is 4,000 stars and 14 contributors. And you know, this is the only, you know, this framework started in December last year, okay? And this is still alpha version. So I think it's still pretty good because as I remember the old frameworks, they didn't have much contributors before the first like actual release. This is just alpha stage, so this is something new. I think like you should keep eye on it. Don't go production yet, but once it will be released, then I think there will be, you know, a strong competitor to Angular 2. And you know, you never know what's the best. Like, you know, 2017 there will be better framework. So, yes.
So my impression is it is a little bit like Angular 2, but it's simpler, write less code. Is it this or is it more?
Yeah, you can put it this way. Like, you know, like if you look here, you know, a lot of stuff is done by convention. The advantage of that is that, you know, you don't have to write the stuff you have to write anyway. The disadvantage is that, you know, there are some things going on the framework level that you don't really know how they are working. But, you know, once you learn the framework, you know, you can check it out. You can check even the code. You know, this is just JavaScript anyway. So, you know, I like it more because I like to repeatedly write the same over and over again. So that was, I think, the main disagreement between like Rob and Angular 2 team. Yes?
Conversations around these tools usually go around, or they end up touching around performance. Are there any lessons learned from your experience on, like, you know, is performance good here? Is it comparable to, you know, React, Angular 2,
Okay, so the question is, what's the Aurelia performance? As far as I know, currently the next step they will be doing developing this framework is focusing on performance. Because like usual, you know, performance is something you leave at the end of development. So now they are working on that. You know, to get the real metrics, you need to wait until some big project will be done with Aurelia, with Angular, and then you can really say. Because, you know, then even the team, they can throw you some metrics and, hey, see, look at that. You know, Angular is this, right? Aurelia is that fast, right? Then Angular 2 team will give you some other metrics saying, oh, this is Aurelia, and we are here, right? So it doesn't matter. It depends on your project, and we just have to wait for that. But I think if they say they will work on performance, so they keep this in mind. OK, thank you very much. So you can find me later after my talk. Thank you.